Hey everybody, Chris from Granite Rifle Group, doing a little video on mounting a scope. This won't be your traditional, well, it's going to be pretty traditional, however, we're going to be using some tools that most people don't have, but it should give you a general idea of what you would like to look for when mounting a scope. So this is my wife's rifle right here. This is a TC Compass, chambered in .223. These are sweet little guns. If you can find them at an affordable price point, definitely pick them up. They're really sweet. Some of the cool features on it, it has a 60 degree bolt throw. You can get spring kits for the triggers because the stock trigger is terrible. But with the spring kit, M Carbo is the company that makes those. Really cheap, and it drastically improves your trigger. So again, really cool little gun. I like it a lot. Right now it's got this X-Sight HD on it, day and night digital scope. Cool scope, I like it a lot. But I have my Arken LH4 4-16, so this is going to be the scope that's going to go on this rifle. And yeah, I'm going to show you how to mount it. I don't know if I'm going to stick with the one-piece mount, if it's going to be too high for this particular stock. If so, then I'm going to throw on some of these low rings, and we're going to see, because these are essentially the high rings. These are 1.5 inches, and these are 0.97 inches. So just kind of depends on how it's going to go on the rifle. I might have to swap a couple of things out, but let's get started. Okay, obviously, first things first, make sure the rifle's clear. Duh, right. So just going to go ahead and pull this off. It's not ideal, but it's pretty close. These aren't crazy on there, so. And it's quite the size difference. Quite the chonker.
Definitely.
My son Roderick is filming for me, so thank you.
Hi.
What a dork. Okay. So, first things first, gonna go ahead and kind of check, just set the optic on first and kind of get an idea about what that it's difficult for me to work and talk at the same time. It's hard enough for me to just talk normal.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to set this on here very kind of lightly, just kind of see how it's, you know, I don't know if I like the look of the cantilever mount, right, it's not going to fall off, and check my eye relief. Okay, good eye relief. It's quite high for my for a good cheek weld. It's much more of like a jaw weld. So therefore, I'm gonna pull, and I can check here. Right, you have to kind of look at what your limiting factors are. Limiting factors are things that you can't change, such as your comb height or your cheek riser height, and then also things like bolt throw. Right. If this had a larger bolt throw on it, then I might be stuck having to have my scope up this high so that I can actually run my bolt without smashing my thumb or impacting the optic itself with the bolt handle. So since I got plenty of room, I can bring that scope down quite a bit, and I can get a much better setup on the gun. So I had a feeling this was going to be the case. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these off real quick, and then we will transition over to actually leveling the scope in the rings. So this is the part of the job that most people aren't going to have these tools, and in all honesty, you're probably not going to need these tools if you only mount a scope every once in a great while. However, I mount scopes all the time, so therefore this tool really speeds things up and gets things super rock solid. So normally when you're mounting a scope, you have to get your rifle nice and level, and then mount the scope on top and get your scope nice and level while also keeping the rifle level and it can be a real pain. This alleviates that. I set the rings on, set the scope in it, get this trued up nice and level, and then lock it all down, and then I set the scope inside of it and get that level. So then when that's all torqued down and complete, I can just take it off and set it straight on the gun, and I'm done.
Yeah.
So I have a little level on here. This scope leveling system is from Short Action Customs. Really, really great stuff. Not the cheapest, but it's a really fantastic tool. So I'm going to go ahead and get it level, just like that, and I'm going to kind of just roughly aim it at my plumb bob, which is over here. There's no set distance for this. This is the plumb bob right here, and you'll see what that's for in just a second. So now that I verified that everything is pretty close to level, if you want to get crazy with it, they got these little wheels on the back, and you can actually add tension and move this monolithic piece separate from how it attached to the tripod. Again, this is a pretty serious tool that most people really don't need. Okay, perfect right there. Okay, so I got my rings here. Again, I do this all the time, so I know roughly where I want to be putting. That's why I have, you should be able to see the yellow in the screen there, but I have these marked out where I want my rings for a good general area to lock the rings in. So I'm in a slightly different situation than most people. And please, if your torque specs are annotated either in the instruction manual or on the device itself, follow the torque specs. If you don't have the correct tooling, find somebody who does and have them install it, right? If you're just cranking things on there, old, German torque specs, right, good and tight, if you're doing that, you're gonna have a lot of inaccuracies. All this stuff is just aluminum, and aluminum can bend and flex quite easily with some pretty minute forces. So making sure that all of your fasteners have the same tension on them is really important. Something most people completely overlook. And unfortunately, the guy at Cabela's is not the best guy to be mounting your scope. So I'm just kind of getting this set up a little bit here so that I can set the scope in and make sure that the scope dimensions line up nicely so that if need be I can slide the scope forward and back in the rings, and my rings aren't going to be too close together or too far apart. Okay. Oh. I'm quite confident that these are going to be in the right area, so I'm just going to go ahead and torque them down now, at least the bases. These particular ones are 30 inch-pounds on the bottom. And they're going to be 18 inch-pounds on the top of the rings. Okay, so here comes the scope in the rings. I want to make sure that if need be, I can slide my scope out and also back. So this is going to be pretty good. I'm just going to kind of center it. If need be, I can adjust this later. I know it's not the most interesting thing to watch, but so again, I'm just going to snug these up just a little bit before I start torquing on them, because I made a mistake. It's okay, I can fix it, no problem.
What mistake did you make?
I have to actually mount this backwards so that I can use my plumb bob to actually reference the reticle inside. Because I have to shine light through the scope backwards, right? Because that's how the scope is designed to work. Light comes in this way, goes through the reticle, then it comes out the eyepiece. So I need to actually have the scope backwards so that I can shine light through it, and it displays on the shop door. You'll see here in a second. I have the scope flipped around. I'm going to use my flashlight here, shine light through the scope. It's going to shine onto the shop door over there. Turn the lights off real quick, move the camera so everybody can see. All right, so plumb bob is over there. I'm going to shine the light through the optic, and you should be able to see that reticle. You do have to adjust the scope a little bit so that the reticle is actually in focus. But right now, the reticle is actually backwards and upside down, because that's how the light is projected through the lenses. And you can see the top dark line and the two horizontal lines as well. And so I want to move this whole setup just a little bit so that it lines up. And this is actually, I mean, pretty much right on the money with the plumb bob. So excellent. I just have to torque it down now and verify that nothing moved after I torqued it down, and then it's ready to go in the rifle. All right, so everything's plumb. I'm just gonna go ahead and torque these down. Again, not very exciting to watch, but it's a very important step. I like to go in a star pattern. I don't know if that actually helps or not. I'm not sure. But you definitely want to make sure and do it all kind of together. You don't want to do like one screw all the way to torque and then another screw all the way to torque. You want to kind of work them around with even pressure. That's what you want. Okay, just like that. Scope's done, ready to go on the rifle, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this off. All right, last step, mount the scope on the rifle. Now that it's all level, I don't have to worry about where, where my gun's at or anything like that. I can just slap it on and then torque my bases down and I'm done. That's where that scope leveling tool comes in really handy. So again, I'm just gonna kind of run these in a little bit, snug it up just a hair, so I can kind of check fitting it. And I'm gonna run this one in a little bit further because I want to check the things that I don't have any control over, such as my bolt throw. Right, I got plenty of room on the bolt throw, and then right here it's still pretty high. I would definitely prefer to have a nice cheek weld, but with this stock it's just really low, right? If I get a good cheek weld, I'm essentially just looking at the back of the bolt. So it is what it is. I can get a riser, I can do other things to bring that up. I can't go any lower with the optic itself, so it is what it is. But this is good for me. My eye relief is good. I'm not gonna fret over it too much. I'm typically going to be shooting this in the prone, but in order to check eye relief, you'd want to check it in every position that you're going to be shooting in. So for instance, if you prone only, then don't worry about standing. But if you are going to be using the rifle for hunting a whole lot, don't set it up for just prone shooting and then all of a sudden go out to shoot the rifle and then realize, oh no, my eye relief is all jacked up because it's only set for prone shooting. You kind of want to find the sweet medium between prone, sitting, kneeling, and standing as well. All right, so I'm happy with eye relief on it, so I'm just going to go ahead and run these in, and then time to torque them in. All right, for these particular scope and rings, 18 inch-pounds on top and 30 for the scope bases. Again, some people swear on a method of order on how to torque these down. I don't know if it actually helps or not. I go insides and then outsides. Does that actually affect anything? I don't know.
Me either.
Okay, so just like that, scope is mounted. Now obviously we have to go zero it. One thing you can do for quick zeroing is you want to get the rifle set up on somewhere nice and sturdy, like definitely with a rear bag, something like that, and you want to look through your barrel so that you see the tip of your target, something with high contrast, preferably white, right? And you want to set that corner up in the center of your bore. And without moving the rifle, you want to adjust your crosshairs onto that same point, and that should at least get you onto paper, and then you can further zero that way rather than shooting and guessing and shooting and whatnot. Makes it way easier, so you're not just sending rounds into the berm not knowing where they're hitting, especially with a harder recoiling rifle, such as 30 cals, 301 mags, you know the cartridges. So that's one thing to do. Next video is going to be actually shooting the gun and shooting with the scope. And yeah, stay tuned. Thanks for watching.
Goodbye.